from subjects. That's Nigeria's traditional institution, but that was in the good old days. A period, a system built on the history, heritage, cultural values and religion of the people comprised the political structure, an attraction which the colonialists built on to foster their administration of the country. The history of Nigeria's traditional institution after this period is vividly captured in a statement. From the pre-colonial period, the traditional institutions have been strengthened and weakened, elevated and humiliated, empowered and disempowered by the ruling class. End of quote. A description many have attributed to the various constitutional reforms covering 1960, 63, 76, 79 and 1999, and the acknowledgement of this group. However, as custodians of values and traditions, the role of these leaders has come under question lately, with disturbing manifestations of citizens who belong to one ethnic group or the other and are subjects of highly respected communities. As a nation on the journey of self-rediscovery, the Deadline 360 team turns searchlight on the traditional institution, its shortcomings, and how it can take back its role as a correction partner in Nigeria's quest for value reorientation and national unity. I'm Hawa Salihu Adama, and it's Deadline 360. Thanks for joining us. Hello and thanks for rejoining us on another edition of Deadline 360 as we x-ray the traditional institution in Nigeria in the light of what commentators have described as a lacuna in the disposition of citizens at the grassroots and, by extension, the entire nation. Abdullahi Garba Birnin Kudu, in our lead report, brings the traditional institution into perspective as well as the subject-ruler relationship.
These sets of traditional rulers are found all over Nigeria, covering more than 300 ethnic groups, and the institution predates what is presently called Nigeria. When the colonial masters came, they made this institution intact and well organized, with interesting hierarchical order. In fact, they make laws and implement such laws according to the norms, values, beliefs, and traditions of their subjects, which are accepted and respected by all. As custodians of tradition and culture, issues of conflict resolutions, policy formulations and implementations, value reorientation, peace and security promotion constitute their major responsibilities.
In those days, nobody comes into a town and spends a night without the emir or the chief getting to know about him, his character, and whatever business he conducts himself in. Today, this is virtually impossible.
Aside these traditional functions, these leaders also act as intermediaries between the governed and the governed.
Welcome to the palace of the Emir of Kefi, a first-class emir in Nasarawa State, north-central Nigeria. To further get an insight into the traditional institutional real setting and their roles to national unity, Deadline 360 was guest to this emir.
This is one of the policies symbolizing the traditional institution in Nasarawa State. The emirs here serve as spiritual leaders to their subjects and promote government policies on daily basis, consult with their wards, village and district heads on matters affecting them.
If you go around various communities, you will see the palace have a role in terms of food production. Most of the times the problem is that we are not carried along. The government will assign some key officers, and these key officers don't go down to the grassroots.
This is obtainable across the divide. as visits to different palaces reveal the same scenario.
People will come now, they say they need this. If people are traveling, crossing from Zaria, Kaduna, Jos, if there's any problem anywhere, they will just run to go and say, where is Ezigbo living? They will come here for help.
But whatever you are going to do, whether you're a Christian, you're a Muslim, you're a traditionalist, all these things had to pass. The head of the community had to know and guide.
These roles are roles that they've been playing right from time immemorial, and they are still playing it. The roles of the traditional institution should be well defined, and then that very particular role should include the role of being part of the security arrangement, because they are the custodian of the people.
Bringing them in as magistrates or high court judges and all that, when the professional certifications and all that, they are not there. Of course, there will be conflicts, but that does not mean that those at that level, at the traditional level, communal level, who want to find justice.
Well, however, there is no gainsaying that the traditional institution is a very important organ in Nigeria's progress as custodians of culture and tradition. People are unanimous that what is required is to specify their role constitutionally so that they will be relevant in the execution of government programs and policies, especially in the promotion of national unity and peace. Reporting for Dateline 360, Abdullahi Greba.
An open-ended discussion, Abdullahi, which I guess remains ever topical. But let's go over to domains across the country for a first-hand experience of how these rulers run their empires. Steve Lonai Nwokolo focuses on the Benin Kingdom.
There's no doubt that traditional institution has grown over the years to become a rallying force for the people who look up to it for directions. It is therefore regarded as a tool for value reorientation and national unity.
How do the Benins and by extension Nigerians see the traditional institution and how it can be used to foster national unity and value reorientation in the country? Let's find out.
The greatest asset of the people of Benin, of course, revolves around the monarchy. That is the way they governed themselves. And with it, there is a statement by one of my very revered professors, Professor Philip Igbafe, who talked of the aura of sacrosanctity that tended to surround the Oba of Benin, and that everything about the kingdom tended to revolve around him. And what is still great today is that years and centuries after, that great monarchy continues to foster the unity of the people of Benin and continues to extol some of the great achievements that had been made by the people.
The Benin traditional institution bridges the gap between the past, present, and future generations. History describes Benin culture as one of the oldest and most revered traditional institutions in the coastal hinterland of West Africa.
In the case of Benin and some other parts of Nigeria, the traditional institution is more or less the closest institution of governance to the local community. The people have great respect and reverence for those institutions because they relate directly with them.
The eroding impact of Western culture notwithstanding, the Benin cultural values are still very strong. Hence the saying that the Oba of Benin is next to God.
For performing arts, we train youth and develop their talents. They will reach out to international choreographers in different parts of the world for the purpose of transforming Benin dance drama into an international brand.
Successive administrations in the states have accorded traditional institutions a pride of place in the scheme of things, especially in promoting peace, progress, and enabling environment for government policies and programs to be embraced and supported by the citizenry.
Your Royal Majesty Omanoba Nedo Uku Akpolopolo, the great and deep history of the Benin people is not just a source of pride to the Edos, but to Nigeria and indeed to the African people.
It is therefore not surprising that the people are calling on government to create intergroup relations among the traditional institutions in the country with a view to sensitizing the people to a national unity and the revival of our values and mores.
If you don't have a culture, you cannot promote unity.
But what I will recommend now is that the federal government should reenact or reintroduce the issue of traditional rulers meeting at their zonal levels to discuss, to evaluate what is happening in the society with a view to making recommendations to the federal authorities.
It is the consensus of the people that the traditional institutions be supported to enable it play this role of fostering national unity and value reorientation in the country. In Benin, Steve Lona and Wankolo for Deadline 360.
Many thanks, Steve. The same excuse, constitutional acknowledgement. However, let's join Lawal Salo Inua in northern Nigeria for the situation at the Kano Emirate Council.
Kano Royal Palace was established over 1,000 years ago. However, the Kano Emirate Council came into being following the conquest of the Fulani Jihad of 1805, when it was brought under the control of Sokoto Caliphate. When the British captured Kano in 1903, they immediately made it an important administrative center, where it set up a native authority with the emir as head. The emir interacts with his subjects at different levels, depending on the form, time, and place, irrespective of where he comes from. His role as emir transcends traditional and spiritual functions. For instance, one of the engagements that endears him to his subjects is the assistance to the needy and the less privileged, while he visits the hospitals and children's home to ease their hardship in the last 10 days of the Ramadan. On the spiritual role, the emir leads the Eid and Jumat prayers, official commissioning of mosques, as well as the appointment of imam at any Jumat mosque in the state. Similarly, during Salah festival, he complements the occasion by organizing Daba, which he goes around the city and some villages outside the metropolis, while acknowledging cheers from hundreds of his subjects. Behind me here is the Fadagoji at the southern gate of the Kano Emir's Palace, where the Emir of Kano receives visitors and other engagements daily. Apart from receiving visitors, he presides over complaints from the public, whether it is forced marriage, land matters, failure of business deals, or any issue that may warrant adjudication.
His subjects normally that have problems, especially civil problems, that they cannot go to the judges or they cannot go to the normal courts. They always come to the palace to see the emir. He will listen to them and he will find a way of negotiating so that a peaceful resolution will be found. And normally it has a lot to do with the religion and the culture.
A 55-year-old Maurice Key from Cross River has been living in Kano for more than 30 years. He was engaged in a business deal with some people and they wanted to dupe him, and when he sought out for the intervention of the emir, his money was promptly recovered.
I wish Muhammadu Sanusi II well, and I pray God to give him wisdom to do.
In the same vein, the monarch used the period of Quranic graduation to engage the young minds on the needs for them to seek for knowledge, and at the same time charge the teachers to be dedicated to duty.
In everything he's doing, I do participate, including my subjects, because he used to invite us. And as a result of that, we're at home in Kano.
Our relationship is very cordial, the Emirate Council and the people of Kano.
So what can be deduced from this interrelationship?
Practically, if you look at the cost-benefit effect, you can now say that the court session is an event where the emir relates more with his subject than going around in the Daba procession.
With the skills and wisdom the emir exhibits in handling issues and attends to matters in the domain, there is no doubt that this has led to unity, cohesion and stability in the cosmopolitan city. Lawal Sallo Inua reporting for this line 360.
Well, Lawal, thanks for your piece. And our last report from the centers is by Emmanuel Lene in South Nigeria.
Apart from acting as custodians of native custom, culture,
tradition and spiritual fathers of their immediate communities, traditional rulers play key roles in the peace and development of their communities and the prosperity of the country. In the Niger Delta, for instance, traditional rulers have always played key roles in the various negotiations that have paved the way for the decades of oil exploration activities and sustenance of memoranda of understanding between the oil companies and their host communities. Unfortunately, the influence of the traditional rulers seems to have waned, occasioned by the increasing cases of youth restiveness, which have culminated in the destruction of oil pipelines, increasing incidents of oil theft, cultism, and other criminal activities which have threatened the Nigerian project. As it stands today, most communities are under threat, and traditional rulers overwhelmed.
This is called. The elders go there, sell out the youth, collect money, and allow the youth to kill themselves. So that is why we, the youth, we no longer trust our elders.
I can only say the elders have sold themselves to politicians, and then the politicians cannot do without the youth. They use the youth to climb to wherever they are today. So if we can retrace back and the elders stood their ground, I think youths are still youths, elders are still elders.
Politicians have meandered their way into traditional affairs, thereby causing a fracas because of different party affiliations, and is now a setback.
To many observers, recent happenings in the Niger Delta region indicate the overwhelming influence of the political class and the youths over the traditional institution. This many attributed to lack of well-defined constitutional rules which have limited the powers of the traditional rulers in the discharge of their functions. However, some stakeholders hold the opinion that traditional rulers still have key roles to play to remedy the situation in the Niger Delta, which is threatening the economy of the country and the Nigerian project.
Bring them together, ask them what are their problems, and tell them the danger in what they are doing. You must talk as a traditional ruler, whether they will listen or they will not listen. You must be able to tell them the danger of what they are doing to themselves, and also work in hand with the security agencies in the area. They will also play their own role.
Why many believe that the powers and influence of traditional rulers need to be harnessed for the peace and development of their communities, others believe there is need for extra constitutional rules for credibility, respect, and command. For Dateline 360, I'm Emmanuel Lene.
We appreciate your comprehensive situation report, Emmanuel. But as seen so far, that request of constitutional recognition resonates again. To move forward, we asked Mie Ogidi to go seek answers to the issue at hand.
It is evident from our findings in the field that the traditional institutions in Nigeria, on the average, no longer enjoy the revered status they used to get in the past. And the major implication of all this is the crisis that we witness in their various domains. The question now is there any remedy to this disturbing situation in the country?
The traditional ruler is a ruler of all and whatever, and they cannot associate with a particular political party. They are the father of all, whether political A or B. They are the father of all, and their neutrality is very important.
Traditional ruler cannot be a contractor. Traditional ruler will be upright. Traditional ruler will not be jumping from one office to the other in those good years. So because of that, their subjects are respecting them.
Civilization of different kinds has made people believe that they can act independently. In the olden days, the traditional head is strictly respected because of deep traditional beliefs. Nobody speaks. Once the traditional head speaks.
And that borough culture, we are in a crisis, we are in a crossroad. But we know we will get to where we're going. But I think there is still need to look back and look at what the Obas can do better in their domain and give them some enabling powers. But making them relevant within their domain will mean giving them constitutional powers.
There is need for value reorientation among the old youth. We need to now embody a kind of attitudinal change. We need to know what is right from what is wrong and be ready to make a positive change.
One common thread that runs across all the respondents is the need for the traditional rulers to do some soul searching to restore their lost dignity, while the subjects on their part must learn how to respect the institution and not the individuals that are occupying the throne. This is quite apt at a time that the Nigerian government has launched the Change Begins With Me campaign, and the wind of that campaign is blowing very wild. Expectations are high that there is probably going to be some level of attitudinal change in the country. Mie Ogidi for Dateline 360.
A much-needed change, one that analysts say has to be driven by collaboration and commitment, especially from the very root, the contemporary traditional institution. From the Shehu of Borno to the emirs in Hausa land, Ata Igala in the north central, and the Obis and Obas in southern Nigeria. No doubt, Nigeria can be described as rich in its traditional institution. However, with recent issues of insecurities, lack of values and lack of patriotism amongst individuals, especially the youth, the question of the influence which these leaders have on the subjects is critical. While arguments have been ongoing on the constitutional role of these rulers, many, on the other hand, have also posited that constitutional acknowledgement or not, traditional rulers have a responsibility, one of ensuring cohesion amongst members of their communities and the nation at large through leadership by example. Send us your thoughts on Dateline 360 at nta.ng or Twitter handle at NTA News Now. We appreciate your time. Many thanks and bye for now.